On today's show, the San Diego Padres dropped their first game in a series against the D-backs, and with the loss comes a very important question. Are we sure the back end of the rotation is going to be okay?
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Tuesday, August 5th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering the team for almost 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but also various other outlets, including JustBaseball.com, chief among them. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Go check that out for sure. And go check me out on the socials at Twitter and X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, or you can leave questions on the YouTube page, or you can subscribe as well. Either way, though, go check me out on there with any questions, comments, or concerns you might have. Today's episode, guys, we are recapping very quickly yesterday's game and looking at the big picture question, which is about JP Sears and whether or not the Padres back end of the rotation is going to be okay. Then I got a little bit of beef that I have to start with Xander Bogaerts, which sounds like, Javi, what are you talking about? We all know about Xander Bogaerts already, and he's been playing a lot better. Well, I still got beef, and I'm going to tell you why. And then answering a couple fan questions that I didn't get to, fan listener questions that I was unable to address yesterday that kind of, are important to where we are currently right now. I actually am really interested in getting to that. So, without further ado, let's get to it, guys. I've been farting around for too long. Yesterday, the Padres lose last night. Not yesterday, last night specifically, 6-2 to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're unable to get to Brandon Pfaadt, which has been a trend for this team, right? One thing about the Padres offense is it's very unpredictable. I feel like we never know exactly when it's going to show up. But against a pitcher with a 5.11 ERA and a whip above 1.3, opponent batting average 272, whatever numbers you want to use, Brandon Pfaadt having a very, very bad year, which, by the way, is part of the reason that I think that the D-backs had to sell, is that just everybody in their pitching rotation has had bad years. But the Padres made sure to not totally kill him. Now, they didn't get destroyed by him, but he goes 5 2/3 in this one, giving up 2 earned runs on 3 walks, 4 Ks, 5 hits. The 2 runs coming from a Jackson Merrill double. Love to see that. Manny Machado scored. And then, of course, Jake Cronenworth driving in a run as well. Other than that, kind of a quiet day for the Padres offense. We did get a 2-for-4 game, though, from Ramon Laureano, which is, there's nothing important about that necessarily, other than just saying, like, I'm really excited that Ramon Laureano has just immediately been raking with the Padres. Hits in basically every game, I'm pretty sure, with the Padres so far. Just really, really cool stuff. I'm so excited. No. The first game I think he played with the Padres, he didn't have one. He went 0-for-4. But just really good stuff. Love to see it. Great stuff, right? Just the fact that the bottom of this lineup isn't a 0 anymore is awesome. Who else in this game? Xander Bogaerts goes 1-for-4 with an RBI. Goes 0-for-4. Jackson Merrill 1-for-4 with the RBI that I just mentioned before. 0-for-3 night from Luis Arraez drawing a walk. Cronenworth with the RBI, and that's basically it. Gavin Sheets actually got the start this time. Then they pinch hit for him with Jose Iglesias, who was able to draw a walk. Very cool, whatever. But Gavin Sheets, again, is more of a bench bat, it looks like, at this point for this team, which is fine, because I think him as a bench bat is actually speaks towards the team's depth, especially post-trade deadline. But folks, that's not all. That's not all we got to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, because let me tell you, the Padres with Mr. JP Sears got destroyed, ladies and gentlemen. Got absolutely destroyed. 5 innings in this one. He gives up 5 earned runs on 10 hits, walking 1 and striking out 4. Now, before we get into that, I will say, it's very easy to get on the pitching, but I do sometimes think that you need to remember that the real weakness of this team has been the offense. So while, yes, JP Sears had a bad start, it is worth noting that the Padres had a bad offensive day, right? This is a game that starts off with 2 straight walks allowed for the Padres, and then Manny Machado strikes out in a really, really poor at-bat, a rarity for him. Then you get a Jackson Merrill ground out, and then Xander Bogaerts grounds out with runners on second and third, unable to drive in the RBI. We'll get to him in a little bit, but it's just hard for me to totally hate pitchers when the offense just kind of goes kaput for an entire night, right? And I will say that Tatis did get a little bit unlucky. He had the third hardest hit ball of the night, 106.1 miles per hour off the bat, an expected batting average of 430. And he had the seventh hardest hit ball of the night, 104 miles per hour off the bat, with an expected batting average of 870. And it was actually a home run in 12 out of 30 ballparks. So, just saying, a little bit unlucky for our boy Tatis. But then again, with Tatis, sometimes with the expected batting average and the hard hit stuff, I'm like, well, I see that all the time with him. So, is it unlucky at this point? Because I keep seeing it happen. I'm still waiting for Tatis to go nuclear. We're all still waiting. What can I say? But overall, though, this is about JP Sears. And the thing about JP Sears is that I still like the acquisition, right? I still like that you got a starter in return in the Mason Miller trade because you gave up Stephen Kolek and you gave up Ryan Berger. But it is worth mentioning that Ryan Berger and Stephen Kolek were really, really solid pieces at the back end of this rotation. And one of the questions and one of the reasons I was so adamant about not trading Dylan Cease and selling low on a guy like Dylan Cease was because of the back end of the rotation. It's not, I think people need to remember that at this point in the year, and I understand that the Padres only really have to worry about the Reds in terms of stealing that last wildcard spot, to which they have, I believe, a 3-game lead over them right now. I'm going to check that. But it's still important to get through the season. And guys like Kolek and guys like Berger are guys that were proven to be depth pieces that can get you through a season, right? So that's kind of my perspective on the whole thing. Is just, like giving those guys up, it does make me a little bit nervous. Now, I understand why he did it. You got Freddie Fermin in return. But I'm just saying, even though they only have that one team to kind of, the Reds, they're 3 games up on the Reds right now for that last wild card spot. 1 game behind the Mets and 3 behind the Cubs. So whatever, for the wild card stuff. Just giving you guys an update. I still think that this is going to be something to ask about the back end of the rotation. Could Randy Vasquez make a return? Is this something that I think is DEFCON 1? No, because I think Randy Vasquez could come back and at least fill innings for them. I think that Matt Waldron could come back and just fill innings for them. And I think that you have still JP Sears, who has been an okay pitcher in his career, literally the epitome of a back-end starter. So you have that. And then you have Mr. Nestor Cortez, who just got called back up, right? That's who Randy got sent down for. So can he be good? Nestor Cortez, at times, hasn't just been a good back-end starter. He's been an elite starter. I mean, when he first debuted for the Yankees, like when he was first coming up, that first year, right? When he really, not literally his debut, but when he really got some run back in 2021, guy pitched to a 2.9 ERA, and the next year to a 2.4 ERA. Like, he's been very quality before, and while I don't think it's going to play as well as it has in the past necessarily, I think that you can at least hope for this guy to be not even back end, but maybe a number 4 in your rotation. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it is still a question that is worth asking. The rest of the way, do they have the depth pieces to get them through the season? I think so. But JP Sears getting lit up the way that he did, it is worth at least bringing up that question and saying it's something to keep an eye on going forward. But guys, we're not done yet. We also got to talk about Xander Bogaerts and the problems that he's had with this team. A very specific problem that I don't have any answer for. But let me tell you about one of our sponsors first today, guys. That is our friends over at the Duelist of Fandom. Let me tell you, summer sports, guys, are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I've been using it to keep track of everything from my favorite matchups to these daily, new, fresh promotions. Folks, just refresh the app. Do all that. They keep it fresh for you. Same game parlay, watching it bet Ryan to the 9th inning. Whatever it is, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And don't worry if you're new to FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. And just like that, everybody, we are blasting into the second segment of this here podcast. I hope you all are doing fantastic on this lovely Tuesday morning, afternoon, night, whatever it is. I, of course, am Javier Reyes. Remember to follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky. And remember, you get shows every day on this channel, so keep it subscribed, whether you're viewing or listening. We were just talking about the game. Right, JP Sears back into the rotation. It is a question that I pose to you, the listener and viewer, to just keep an eye on going forward, because I think that it should never be underestimated how difficult it could be sometimes to make sure you have a steady back end of your rotation. So that's that. right? Let's talk about Xander Bogaerts. And it's not because I don't want to talk about Xander Bogaerts today, necessarily because he had a bad game, right? 0 for 4 in this one, and getting the ground out when you had second and third, your ability to strike early on that D-backs team that you know you're going to have to strike against. I understand that the D-backs gave up Josh Naylor, gave up Eugenio Suarez, but they still have guys like Corbin Carroll. They still have guys like Gabriel Moreno. Like, they still have good players, Kentel Marte. Like, they still have a good lineup. So this is not a walkover team by any stretch. But Xander Bogaerts, unable to drive in the run there. And it got me thinking. Xander Bogaerts, over the last 2 months, we've talked about that he has been better, and I have been taking some victory laps over the fact that everybody who was complaining that they need to give up prospects and eat some of the payroll just to get rid of this guy, get nothing in return just to get him off the books, I thought it was absurd because I thought he could be an average player. And Xander Bogaerts has been an average player. In fact, he's been a little bit better than that because of his speed, and especially because of his defense. His defense has been surprisingly great this year, right? He's actually got, I think it's 8 outs above average, if I'm not mistaken right now. He's got 8 outs above average. He's been really, really good defensively, showing a lot of range, having a good arm, all that stuff. And his overall slash line has improved. 267, 336, 379. Not the best. 715 OPS overall, though. And what I look at is the 104 WRC plus. I look at the fact that his expected weight on base is the highest it's been in a few years. So there are good developments for Xander Bogaerts. I don't want this segment to make everyone think that I'm going back on my excitement for him potentially being better and whatnot. But we talked about the other day, this lineup, above average hitters all around. But one of the reasons you have to dive deeper into numbers and all that sort of stuff and evaluate a player's performance is because you find things like this, which is Xander Bogaerts has really broken my brain with his inability to drive in runs. He's got only 38 RBIs on the season in 111 games, which is bad, right? And RBIs aren't the be-all and end-all stat, right? Sometimes your offense is really bad around you. Sometimes guys just don't happen to be on base when you're up there. Sometimes it depends on your placement in the batting order, right? But for Xander Bogaerts, this is a player that, over the last 2 months, as we've talked about, has a 789 OPS, right? He had a 789 OPS in June and a 783 OPS in July. That's a 2-month sample size, right? And that'll play. I will take a sub, almost 800 OPS Xander Bogaerts, even if it's not worth the overall contract. The fact that he's going to be an above average, really pretty good bat is huge for this team. But over this same stretch, we have talked about all year with the runners in scoring position. As a whole, this year, he's got a 37 WRC plus with runners in scoring position, which is about 63% worse than your average major league player, right? That's what that means, basically. That's what WRC plus means. 100 is average. And that batting average, if you want the more simplified stat, is 154, right? And I think it's interesting that if you look at bases empty, he's got a 117 WRC plus. With men on base, he's got a 90 WRC plus. And then if they're in scoring, he's basically been anemic. I just think that it says a lot that it gets worse and worse as it matters more. But even more than that, even more than the total thing, because Javi, we know, he was really bad to start the season. We were all saying we need to panic trade him, give up Leo DeVries to trade him, right? That's where we were at one point. So what about those last 2 months? Well, since June 1st, right? I talked about how June and July have been great months for him. Since June 1st, Xander Bogaerts, with runners in scoring position, is hitting below 100. 93, in fact. Oh, yeah. And do you know where that ranks among major league players? In 64 plate appearances. That is the second worst mark since June of any player, position-wise, in Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position. That's insane. And the reason it's insane is because we talk about on this podcast a lot, I'm a big regression to the mean guy. I'm a big law of averages guy. I just like to incorporate that with my analysis and say, you know what? If a player's been obscenely bad, it's probably going to get better. Or obscenely good, it's probably going to go down. With, obviously case-by-case basis. With Xander Bogaerts, literally his entire career with the Padres has been plagued by this. And this is not a guy before this tenure with the Padres who had this issue, right? Not at all, right? If you look at his splits throughout his career, if you want to, let's go back to 2022, right? His last year before signing with the Padres. With runners in scoring position that year, you know what he was hitting? 147 WRC plus. He hit 303, right? That's insane. Right? And what about 2021? Oh, maybe it was a little bit worse there. 116 WRC plus. He hit 289 with a 360 on base. Right? Not as incredible, but still really good. In 2020, what did he have? Oh, nothing. Oh, let's see here. A 70 WRC plus. Now, does that mean a lot? No, because it was 2020, right? So I don't want to look at that entirely. But You go back to 2019, men in scoring position, 150 WRC plus, literally got better that season. What about 2018? Oh, 189 WRC plus. Oh, what about 2017? Not great. That was the final last true season in which he was bad, 89 WRC plus. He hit though 282, by the way. So I'm a little bit confused by how the WRC plus was 89. That's a little bit odd. Why is that? Is it because of the BABIP? I'm looking at these numbers right now. Is it the slugging? That's weird. But even that year, he wasn't even that bad. But basically what I'm saying is, aside from 2017, that was the last time non-Padres that Xander Bogaerts was truly not great with runners in scoring position. And it keeps continuing. And a stat like this tends to get better. You tend to be able to just hit with runners on base. It's not going to continue year after year for you like this, right? Especially when your numbers are starting to go up, right? I don't care about his numbers with runners in scoring position when he's hitting bad in general, right? My thing is you're hitting 220. I just need you to hit in general, right? So this guy has been a kind of just a more high profile version of a guy who just gets on base a little bit and can sometimes score runs. And I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. I think it's got to be a little bit of a mental thing at this point. If you just cannot drive in runs, like literally every time Bogaerts drives in a run, it feels miraculous, right? And I was at one of the games, right, last Monday when he had that, I believe it was an RBI double down the left field line, which was a little bit hard to see from my seat, by the way. I had to like wait and hear the fans if they were cheering. Then that's how I knew it wasn't a foul ball. But this is something to keep an eye on, I think, going forward for Xander Bogaerts, because yes, he's been a better player, and I'll take what he's given us lately. But the fact that he's been that bad still with runners in scoring position says a lot about him. And even if you incorporate, say, WRC plus, it's not like it's all that much better, right? He's been a little bit better, but he's still at 12 WRC plus. Never mind, he's not that good. Holy God, this is still one of the worst players in Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position, and it's over the last 2 months when he's been hitting better. So I don't know what's going on, guys, but it is so frustrating, and I can't emphasize enough that this doesn't usually stay this way, especially for a player who has shown an ability to be clutch and drive in guys for prolific contending offenses years in the past. I don't know why he's not doing it now, but it's super frustrating, man. Like, and that's what it reminded me of last night with second and third, 2 outs. I know it's 2 outs. You couldn't do even a sacrifice, but he just can't get a hit when we need it. And I don't know why. It's got to be mental at this point. And hopefully, if it is mental, he can break out of it, guys. But yeah, now we got to talk about some questions from you fan listeners about the team in general, how I feel about them, some problems that I didn't get to answer yesterday in the mailbag in just a second. But first, let me talk to you about the title sponsor of today's show, and that is the one that you have to fuel up with. The one that keeps you turning up whatever you're on the golf course. That's 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. So whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. It's great, guys. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the literal number 5, hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. But whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. And just like that, everybody, we are back here thriving and vibing, unlike some other aspects of the Padres team. Locked On Padres, everybody, your favorite podcast for your team every day, giving you all the info and the data and the personality, if you like it, and the lovely facial hair, might I add, to talk about the Padres. And now we're going to answer some leftover questions that we had from the mailbag segment, because you guys sent in a lot this week, and I waded through a lot of them, and I still had a lot to answer. But we're going to talk about them because they are still very, very relevant, guys. Let's start off first with my guy Ash, who also wrote in, all right, here we go. Miller, good bullpen shortens games. Our bullpen shortens series. Sears shores up the rotation, he said. Not so far anyway. And Ryan O'Hearn, and I like this point he made. First time legitimate DH in the NLDH era for the Padres. I didn't even think about this. Genuinely, I did not think about this. Now, of course, I assume Ash is talking about like guys who really play DH, not guys who appeared as DH, like say Jerks and Profar and whatnot. Maybe even Luis Arraez. Luis Arraez probably before Ryan O'Hearn on paper the best DH that the Padres have had in this DH era in the NL. And it's a good point. I mean, this is a team that has Mitch Moreland at sometimes. They had Garrett Cooper and G-Man Choi. That didn't work out, right? They had, I believe, Nelson Cruz for a little bit. They had Matt Carpenter, right? They've been really struggling to have that DH. Josh Bell and Brandon Drury both didn't work. I understand Josh Bell played a little bit at first base, but you get my point. Like, it's been really bad for the Padres with DH lately. Like, really, really bad for a long time. So I'm glad you brought up that point. In fact, the Padres have the 19th. They ranked 19th in WAR at their DH position since 2020. Fun fact. But yeah, man, I agree. You know, for me, and solid defenders should keep people from running on us in the playoffs. Yet another run prevention tool, decent hitter, solid pickup. Wagner, Y, Cortez, double extra Y. Outside Wagner and Cortez, Preller has polished his team into a major World Series contender. Only 3 games back of the Dodgers with third easiest schedule ahead of us. I am pumped, whispering softly. Holy crap, Doodles, we gave up everything. Yeah, the prospect haul is pretty wild, but as I kind of posited the question yesterday, like I am wondering if like AJ Preller is exposing something in the sport right now, which is like people love hanging on to prospects as if you can't find new ones. If you're a good, smart team and you have good scouts, if you can't find new ones, right? I'm not expecting them to find another Leo DeVries like for next year and that he's going to be a top 10 prospect or anything. But I'm just saying, I think that it's showing off a lot. Like there are teams that have been contenders that have had more prospect than the Padres, who the Padres have then passed in prospect rankings despite all their trades. It tells you something about how the sport works. Anyway, moving on though. I like this comment from @TyGrudge saying the Dodgers were going to get Robert and hit 60 home runs. Again, I just want to reiterate, kind of crazy how fun this deadline was without the biggest players being moved. Right? Actually insane. Luis Robert, Sandy Alcantara, Jared Duran, Steven Kwan, to name a few. Joe Ryan, right? We thought he was getting traded for a little bit until it was Yahoo Sports got it wrong, right? Like, really crazy how fun the deadline was. But Luis Robert was actually one of those players that I was really convinced, and I did this with my boy Karthik from CBS 8 Sports in the special in-studio podcast last week, where he thought we were going to get Luis Robert, because it did match up well with just betting on White Sox players at this point. Like, all of them get better as soon as they leave that nightmare. But also because it's a big, sexy move, and Preller does stuff like that. We did not know that Preller was going to get, like, 26 players were going to be exchanged with AJ Preller deals over the deadline. But I'm still a little bit surprised Luis Robert didn't get moved. The White Sox, I guess, are waiting for an offer that's never going to come. So whatever. We'll see how they do. Bad teams do bad stuff, guys. What can I say? Someone made a comment about that episode I did with Karthik, by the way. What are these guys talking about? Of course, you can trade Suarez or Jeremiah Estrada. We have deep bullpen and could afford to trade one of them for offense. We had all 4 of them, including Tanner Scott, and still couldn't beat the Dodgers. Why? Because they couldn't score any runs in 2 games when they had a 2-1 series lead. He says in all caps, hey, man, I'm still pissed too. But I want to bring that question up because it is worth noting. That's why. I just want to say one more time. Yesterday, a couple days before, hey, frankly, what's going on with the Yankees right now? Why I said that? Because my mom's a Yankees fan, and my dad is too, and they'll text me about it like all the time, right? So I just want to throw it out there that like that team traded for a bunch of relievers, and they've given up nothing but bullpen runs lately. It's like that's one of the reasons I was nervous about Leo DeVries. It's just because an asset like that for a bullpen arm is always going to scare me. I don't care which bullpen arm it is. I freaked out over the Josh Hader trade. Like the Josh Hader trade made me nervous, and by the way, he was really bad when it first started off with the Padres. Then he was great the next year, but then it was a little bit of a waste, right? I'm just worrying about that, especially when the Padres didn't need as much. Just to reiterate my trade deadline stance, I still like what they did overall. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. Thankfully, though, Laureano and Ryan O'Hearn, hopefully they can fix it. Tony Sue, though, then comments and says he has a problem with the Padres. They currently have one, he says. In my opinion, the team is lacking focus. Mason Miller and Robert Suarez didn't have it at first, but they're both good enough and may be lucky enough to recover and shut down St. Louis before any runs were scored. Estrada similarly started rough, but unlike Mason and Suarez, inexplicably kept throwing off-speed pitches and gave up that home run instead of challenging with fastballs. Who was calling the pitches for Estrada? This series has shown that St. Louis is not a high 90s fastball hitting team. Pivetta had success, and he's primarily a fastball pitcher. Both Mason and Suarez got out of trouble when they adjusted to pitching only fastballs. Fastballs should be the simplest pitch, but has to be located where the batter isn't expecting. Estrada has a great fastball. Why didn't he throw a single fastball in or out of the zone the entire at-bat? Well, shortly after this, Tony Sue, Jeremiah Estrada nearly had an immaculate inning, getting, I believe it was like like all strikes except for one ball. Look, here's the thing, guys. Like, let's stop reading into small samples. The only thing that I will say about Mason Miller is that while he didn't have like the best debut for the Padres, I did love seeing his energy. I love that he worked out of trouble and then he was just super fired up, right? I understand that there were a little bit of questions being like, dang, that slider is not working. But that fastball almost made me go back on my reliever stance. No, I stand by it. I still stand by my reliever stance that I don't like them. I don't like betting on them because they're so volatile and guys fall off, right? Like they just do. I remember when David Bednar was a top 5 closer and then was really bad for 2 years for inexplicable reasons, right? Unlike other batters who it's like an age thing, relievers, it could just happen. You know what I mean? That's why it worries me to be investing so much in a bullpen. But with Mason Miller, his fastball is disturbing in a good way. Like, that was my takeaway. And he got the strikeout, the one strikeout that he got, right, in his debut. That fastball is genuinely astonishing. And there's a reason batters are only hitting 197 against it, right? And slider, by the way, batters are hitting only 138 against it. But the just ferociousness with which he can throw that thing, the degree to which he can elevate the fastball when he's trying is incredible. I still think the slider is probably his best overall pitch, but fastballs are great. What I'm basically saying is overall is this: don't freak out over small sample size of relief pitchers or batters or anything like that. Like, we still got a long ways to go. And it's really fun because this is a new look Padres team. That's what's so going to be so fun about the upcoming, next few weeks, is that it feels like we got a new team to watch. You know what I mean? It feels almost like that feeling you get on opening day where you're just seeing guys for the first time. With this retinkered lineup, I still have a lot of faith that they can go pretty far, right? Like, I actually think that they can face a good team and beat them. I think they could silence them. But we're going to have to see, right? Can they get through the rest of it? Can Cincinnati sneak up on them? And can the Padres fall apart? They've fallen apart before. Now, I have faith that Mike Schilt and company, that it's just a well-managed team, and I like that clubhouse a lot. It's just got a lot of good vibes, but it's worth pointing out. All in all, though, guys, man, gotta love Padres baseball, man, because it's just always new stuff. This next game against the D-backs, as will every game, will be very interesting. I'm curious to see when Ryan O'Hearn starts really kicking into gear and potentially doing what he was doing with Baltimore, right? That still remains to be seen, and I am, yes, still... Someone actually texted me. They were like, oh, God, please don't tell me this is Josh Bell and Brandon Drury again. Well, Ramon Laureano has been good at least, so it's at least not going to be that, hopefully, so far. But looking forward to this next game between the Pods and the D-backs. I believe it is it Dylan Cease tonight? It could be Dylan Cease. No, it's you, Darvish, and then I believe Dylan Cease. So huge start for Darvish tonight. And frankly... Oh, no, Nestor Cortez. That's right. Nestor Cortez is Wednesday. So we're going to be recapping those games, and it's going to be a lot of fun talking about how both those guys do. Both huge, big starting pitching performances, in my opinion, these next 2 games with Darvish. Was his last start legit? Can he build on it? And then Nestor Cortez, same thing we talked about in the first segment with the back end of the rotation. So it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. But until those games, you'll be listening to the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. And until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful, my Friar Faithful homies. Take care.